So, Heather, we talked about this briefly on the other side of the break, but Senator Mike Lee has been trying to draft a piece of legislation that will sort of assuage those people who are nervous about voting to give Donald Trump or not voting to stop Donald Trump's power grab in stealing money from variously appropriated budgets to build a massive wall on the border. And Mike Lee is trying to do an end run. And I got to say, the media is not doing a particularly good job, it strikes me, the corporate media, of saying this is the Republicans trying to do a one-off. You get your wall, but no future presidents will have this power. And it's reprehensible.
Well, it's reminiscent. You said that this was emblematic of the Trump era. It's actually, this is something that the first thing I thought of when I saw it was Bush versus Gore.
Bush Gore, 2000, yes.
Where the conservative majority said, well, this ruling only applies in this situation. We get our man in, but don't think you can ever do this. You can't use this equal protection argument for any time someone like, one of your people gets stuck in this situation. I mean, this is what they do. And obviously this is just a face-saving action for Trump so that he can get his wall or get his emergency order. It's also a face-saving operation for themselves where they can say, as you say, it'll make them feel more comfortable. They can pat themselves on the back and go, oh, well, we're not for all this presidential power. It's really win-win for them. They get to, pretend like they care. And, of course, on some level, I think they're assuming that a Democrat is going to beat Trump in 2020, or at least they're making a bet that it's probable or possible.
Yep.
And they want to make sure that that no Democrat can do anything like this. And maybe even a few of them might be thinking, well, maybe we ought to stop Trump. He's getting a little out of hand. But to let him get away with this and to do this, and I agree with you that the press is not presenting this properly. They're sort of saying, well, Pence and the Republicans, they've come to an agreement, they're negotiating, they're doing it's it's kind of a valid compromise of some sort, and it's completely invalid. It's the worst of all possible worlds. It gives them what they want and lets them off the hook with people who think maybe the president, shouldn't be a dictator. And they can go around pretending like they're actually, we stood up for congressional prerogatives. Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, they should, I don't have any problem with this law. I mean, to the extent that if they decide to pass a law where they, resume congressional prerogatives, on principle, I agree with that. I mean, the president, if we've seen nothing else in the Trump era, we've seen that the president has way too much power and that this is a ridiculous, situation we've gotten ourselves in over many, many years. And, of course, most of it's in foreign policy, which is something that really should be clawed back. But, nonetheless, the idea that they're doing it under these circumstances is ridiculous. And of course, imagine, is Trump really... What's he going to do? I mean, all this does is just sort of prove once again that the Republican Party is nothing more than a bunch of, boot-looking henchmen for Donald Trump, and they are basically just doing everything they can to ensure they don't care what he does. They don't care who he is. They don't care what a criminal he is. All they care, and I guess, what's it come down to, Sam? You tell me. Judges? Is that it? Is that all they care about? I mean,
well, I think they care about judges, but I think they also each care about their own base. I mean, this is Donald Trump has near 90% approval from the Republican Party. And so they are just acting on their own self-interest. They are representing the lunatics that they represent. And that's what's going on here. And in the meantime, what's also striking in terms of legislation that was brought up by, in this case, Mike Lee again, and Joni Ernst, is a proposal for paid family leave, but doing it without the government providing any paid family leave. And the way that they would do this is they would let people borrow against their Social Security fund. And essentially, when you borrow, you would just maybe stave off and work longer years to pay this off. This is insanity. It is insanity. It is an attack on Social Security. It is a failure to join the rest of industrialized countries in paying, not borrowing against yourself. I mean, this is essentially mortgaging against your retirement. It is so dangerous. And it is the reason, frankly, why the 401ks have failed, because so many people have the ability to pull the money out when they go through hard times. That the 401k has been at least partly because of that reason. The other part because just, the problems with a defined contribution program has utterly failed to provide for the retirement insurance that people anticipated it might. And so this is grotesque. I mean, honestly, the media is not nearly jaded enough by these Republicans. And that's what's so disturbing about it, right? Like,
and Mike Lee is doing this, by the way. I mean, I don't know about Ernst. I don't know what her motivation is here. But Mike Lee, I mean, he's a sneaky devil, and he's got a strong libertarian bent, and this is basically an assault on Social Security. I really believe that he doesn't care about.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I mean, this is just another way to try to dig into Social Security and make it, vulnerable. Make the people mistrust it, and I mean, you can imagine people taking this benefit, this so-called benefit. Logically, you got a baby, you want to be able to, stay home and take care of it for a while, and then coming to the end, and going, oh, geez, my retirement's dwindled. I got half of what I thought I was going to get from Social Security. I mean, this is completely, and not to mention the funding that goes into it, right? I mean, I don't know how they were going to accommodate that. You keep paying into Social Security, or were they going to allow you to not? I mean, I don't even know what they were going to do there. But whatever it is, it's definitely just another. They will never give up. They've been doing this since 1938, and they're not going to quit. So anybody who thinks that Social Security is truly secure really need to think again.
Listen, we just got a minute left, so I want to just a shout out to Elizabeth Warren and her proposal to break up Facebook and Google and some of these bigger companies. Facebook even sort of proved her right by pulling down the ads that she wrote about her proposal on Facebook. Also, we should mention your governor in California has put a moratorium on the death penalty in California, which gives reprise to over 730 inmates. I think it's close to 740. In fact, of course, we also had Donald Trump release his budget, which, talking about cutting Social Security, called for cuts in Social Security, cuts in Medicare, cuts in Medicaid, cuts in all sorts of domestic social welfare programs, food stamps. I mean, major cuts in the EPA, cuts in the Commerce Department in terms of the census. I mean, it goes on and on. I'm fascinated by how vulnerable science programs, research studies. I'm fascinated by how short-sighted this is by Donald Trump in terms of the 2020 election. But there is that quality. It feels like that some of the more right-wing people in the White House are, I don't know, just trying to get their last licks in some way. I mean, this isn't a budget that's going to be instituted, but I mean, it's bad, and we're going to hear more about it on the 2020 campaign trail. I hope
so.
I mean, it would be pretty bad malpractice to not push that.